Good morning from Olympia, Washington. My name is Bobby Johnson. It's Monday, February 18th of 2019. Thanks for coming to check out my stream. Yesterday I did a pop-up stream and we were working on a screen scraper. And we encountered some issues, and I want to continue working on that because I found some new information that might help us in the implementation of the screen scraper. So before we get started, though, let me get you caught up on what it is we were attempting to do. So Twitch recently released a new feature called Teams, and C# Fritz, since he is recently received his partner status, enabled this feature for his account, and he added several people to his team. And I thought it would be neat if I could get that information, the members of the team itself, and then go query their events page for each of the members of the team, and maybe aggregate a calendar of events based on what upcoming streams are scheduled by the team members. And the reason I wanted to do that was I want to find a spot the best spot that I can be streaming that doesn't conflict with any of the C# Fritz team members. That way, most of the people that come to watch my show probably watch those folks as well, and I don't want to step on their streams. And my dog is going insane right now, wants out of my office, so give me just 1 second, I'll be right back. All right, sorry about that. I am back. So once again, what we were doing is we're trying to develop a calendar of upcoming events for a given Twitch stream team. And the reason we kind of went down the screen scraper route is we looked into Twitch's API, and they offer no way that's supported of getting the events for a given user or a team or anything to do any kind of scripting with. And I found that kind of weird, but it is all publicly available information through their website, so building a screen scraper should be fairly simple to be able to do. So I remembered a project that I had done last year at NodeConf Argentina, where I did just that. I built a screen scraper for the schedule page of the NodeConf website. And what this code does is it is a web task that queries that schedule page and then formats the output to dump it into Slack, basically. So I thought, okay, well, I can take this code, adapt it slightly, and scrape the pages that I want off of Twitch. Now, at that time, what I hadn't considered was that the NodeConf Argentina site was just your standard Jekyll site, and that it publishes basically HTML, right? So it was fairly easy to screen scrape this. The difficulty with Twitch is that Twitch is a giant React app. Like, everything is React on the page. So JavaScript actually needs to execute for the page to render itself, whereas NodeConf Argentina's website didn't. And what we discovered first, the very first problem we ran into yesterday, is that the library we were using for interpreting the markup, Cheerio, states very, very clearly in their documentation that Cheerio is not a web browser. Like, Cheerio starts with raw HTML. So if you need JavaScript to execute on a given page to get the page to render itself, Cheerio's not the tool, or at least not that at that part of your tool chain. You need something lower level to do the execution of the JavaScript. So Cheerio calls out two projects to check out: Phantom.js and JSDOM. I had not used either of these toolkits previously, so we just kind of jumped into Phantom.js and started working with that code. It looked fairly simple. You know, the out of the box example they give you is about 8 lines of code. Seems pretty straightforward. And then we started spinning on that with some code over here, which I can show you. And where we ran into issues was we could get the page to load. Let me explain this code really quick. Basically, I create a Phantom instance. Once that's complete, I create a page object. And then once I have the page object, I go ahead and tell it to load a specific URL. And then after that URL has been loaded, you get a callback with a status. And if that status is successful, then you got a 200 coming back from the web server. And then we spun for about 2 hours right here trying to fetch the information that we wanted out of the Twitch page, and never seeming to get a page that had the elements in it rendered that we wanted. And what was interesting about that, if we go back to the browser, I think here's where we got stuck, is that I had kind of went into the console here on the Twitch page, and I checked the Windows frames object, right? And according to the browser itself, there are 3 frames available. So we started iterating on, okay, well, let's pull the first frame and interrogate that for the HTML that we want. Didn't find it there. Second frame, interrogate the HTML that we want there. Not there. And then the third frame, and we didn't find it there as well. And by the end of the stream, I kind of come to the conclusion that we were at a dead stop. We were spinning on the problem so hard, like we couldn't see something in front of our face. So needed to just step back from it and give it some time to stew and figure out what the problem was that we were doing. And overnight, I kind of came to the conclusion that these frames are kind of a wild herring. What I suspect the frames are invisible iframes that are being used by ad networks or metric services for capturing data. And it's probably nothing to do with frames, why I'm not seeing the markup that I want come out of Phantom.js. And so I started Googling on that problem, and I came up with this Stack Overflow post where someone is kind of talking about the same problem I was having. Phantom.js is not waiting for the full page to load. Why is that? And one of the solutions down here seemed really interesting to me, and it basically describes the problem that I was having as me not waiting for the page to render in Phantom.js before trying to interrogate the content of the page. And that kind of made sense. And this person gives a little bit of code for figuring out how to do that. Basically what they're doing is they are looping on checking the page's ready state, right? So looking at the document, is the ready state completed? And then calling back out once that loop is complete. And I wanted to try taking this and implementing it and seeing if that solves our problem, that we can actually find the markup that we're looking for to scrape. So with all that explanation over, let's jump right into the editor and start implementing this. So the first thing I want to do in here is I'd like to clean up some of this messy code that I've created. In flailing yesterday, I kept adding things, deleting some things, adding more things, and now I'm just not quite sure what all this code does. And it also gives me an opportunity to kind of explain what's going on. So let's take a look at some of the methods that we have here. So I start out with a Phantom object that I've required up here that I pulled in, and I create that instance. Once that is created, I store off the session because you have to do some cleanup later on. That's why I have both a page object and an instance object just hanging out here globally. So once I have an instance, I go ahead and create a page out of that. The callback for that, I then store off my page into my global variable. I add a couple event handlers in here just to give me some information about the execution of loading a page. The first event handler basically logs out any URLs that are requested from Phantom.js, to where I can see all of the assets being loaded in, that sort of thing. The next one, if there's any kind of JavaScript error that fires on the page when I'm loading it, I want to load those out, write those out to my console as well. So that's what that one does. And I call these 2 bits of information out specifically because I did this off camera. I didn't do this while we were on stream yesterday. I was trying to look for ways of troubleshooting Phantom. And these 2 methods seemed like good ideas to add to my script. The very last thing I do is I return a page open promise for the team page URL, which we have defined right up here at the very top of the screen. So once that page has been opened, our callback is given a status. And this basically allows us to check to see if we were successful in getting that page. But it doesn't necessarily tell you that the page is ready to be interrogated, that all JavaScript is executed. And I think that's where we were failing yesterday. So the next bit of code, if we are successful, I want to evaluate some JavaScript in the executing page. And what I was doing was getting the body of the document and returning that. And then here's some of the garbage code I was talking about. I just chained that promise, and I think I was trying to print out foo to tell you what that was doing. So I'm just going to get rid of that. And also when I go look at the Phantom documentation, the way they get the content of a page is not using this get element by name. Instead, they call a property called content. So I'm going to revert back to that method of getting the page content. Okay. We also have a else condition here for the status check. If the status check is anything other than success, we just blow the entire promise chain up. Finally, we move into parsing of the team members, which down here, I just have a bunch of commented out code. That makes perfect sense. And we are dumping the console log for that page. So I think I'm going to keep that in there. And let's see. Actually, I think I'm going to put this all back. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the page content. I'm using Cheerio to load that page. And then I am getting the HTML for the body element itself and passing that back out. This is probably not the pattern that I want to be doing once I get Phantom.js figured out the way that I want to use it. Like, I don't know that using Cheerio to parse the HTML is necessary at that point. I might just be able to pull out the elements that I need directly from Phantom.js. But this is kind of a legacy holdover of the original script that I was kind of basing this on. So I will leave that there for now until I know I've got Phantom at least fetching the HTML that I want and showing it to me. So let's see. It looks like this get team page method does not do anything. So I'm just going to nuke it to get rid of some of the noise that we have here. So once I am done parsing the team members, the next callback, I'm expecting to have a JSON object of events here. I go ahead and log that JSON object out, and to ensure that I get the full JSON object in my console, I'm using the inspect method on util. And then here's the cleanup that I was talking about that needs to be done when you're done interacting with Phantom.js. You want to close the page, and then you want to release the browser or the instance, the Phantom.js instance. And finally, we go ahead and exit our node process positively. This is kind of our happy path handler. And then we have a global error handler at the end that basically does exactly the same thing, except we exit with 1, which is basically just to say, hey, this process failed. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And then I want to go ahead and start to implement this ready check state. So let's go ahead and do that. How do they do it? They have a function called on page ready. So let's just start by trying maybe to implement exactly what they have and try to adapt it into the code that we have. So function on page ready. And what is this doing for me? It is fetching the HTML content itself. So page.evaluate. And we're going to hand that a function. And if you recall from yesterday, or if you weren't here yesterday, the evaluate method that Phantom.js hands us on a page object takes whatever JavaScript function you give it as a parameter and actually executes it as if it were a function inside the page itself. So from there, we can basically say return document element outer HTML. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and chain off of this promise. And from right here, I'm just going to dump that document. See what we get. That, and go ahead and pass it back out. Okay, so that's their on page ready function, more or less what they had. They were also closing out the Phantom instance, but I don't necessarily need to do that yet. Let's see. So page open URL takes a function with a status. So their code starts. Let's see. Their code is kind of right in this block right here. And you can see I'm doing a page evaluate as well. So let's try implementing what they have. They have a function actually defined inside the status callback. All right. Like that. And it does a set timeout. That. And do they have, where's the value? They're not necessarily setting a timeout value. They're immediately doing it. So, okay. I'm just going to follow their pattern until I decide I want to do something differently. So they have var ready state equals page evaluate, and we're passing in a function to that. And this simply returns the document ready state. Okay. And then we make a decision based on that. Ready state equals complete. We're going to call on page ready. And on page ready, that is a promise, right? Let's go ahead and make that a promise by returning it. And we're going to go ahead and return the on page ready call. Yeah. On page ready. Otherwise, we're going to call check ready state again. All right. Check ready state. And check ready state is not a promise. So it's basically just going to spin here. I do need to kick it off though. And we can take all of this code and just kind of comment it out for now. I do need to call this function though. So I'm going to call it check ready state. Right, and what we expect this on page ready to do is to return the outer HTML. It is going to log it out. So I'm just going to throw a breakpoint right there. And where else should I throw one? We're not even handling status right now. So let's see. I think I am going to throw a breakpoint right here as well. And let's see if this even runs. Give it a go. All right. Cannot read property parent of undefined. So here's the output that we got. You can basically see us requesting a bunch of resources. We get something back undefined. I'm not sure what that is. And cannot read property parent of undefined, which is a Cheerio method. So I am passing through. I hit that maybe to get the undefined out. You know, I think this code is just kind of confusing. I don't necessarily need that, so I'm going to get rid of it. Page ready, evaluates, gets that. Okay, get rid of that. Phantom create. We are basically saying we're coming into parse team members with an empty page, I think, and that's where we got our undefined. So I'm going to throw a breakpoint there and verify that. All right. Yes, it is coming through undefined. And we did not hit this breakpoint at all. I'm going to throw one here and make sure we're calling our function. All right, so we are calling check ready state. We're getting to the set timeout. And then we immediately pop out to the console log parse members. We are definitely doing this wrong, so I need to rewrite some of this. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another function called check ready state. Out here, and I'm going to make that a promise. Return new promise. And if you're not familiar with promises, it's basically a alternate syntax to async await that allows you to do asynchronous activities in a nice, clean way. And so the way you create a promise is you new it up, and the promise's constructor takes a function that has a resolve and a reject method passed into it. So I'm basically handing the new promise a function definition that takes two parameters, a resolve and a reject, and then a method body. And in that method body, I do some asynchronous thing, and then call resolved when I get the data back that I want. So let's give that a shot real quick. So in this check ready state code down here, what are we actually doing? We're setting this timeout. We're doing the read ready state. If it's complete, we're calling on page ready. Otherwise, we call ready state again. Let's grab all of this logic. That function check ready state. Wait, did I miss something? Function check ready state. Yeah, okay, so we want this, and we're going to get rid of that. We're going to get rid of these things for now. Okay, so my promise is no longer erroring there. Dump that logic here. Okay, so we're doing a set timeout. And in that set timeout, we are going to, instead of set timeout, I could use an interval instead. Set interval. And I want that interval to be, 1 second in milliseconds? So let's do 500 milliseconds. It checks every 500 milliseconds. So it calls it, it gets the ready state. If the ready state is complete, I want a reference to my interval as well. Equals this. So on ready state, if it is complete, I want to stop my interval. So what is that logic? How do I stop an interval? Let's go check it out in a browser. I don't remember. MDN set interval. All right, so set interval. There should be a way to destroy it. I don't remember what the syntax is though. Clear interval. So I think what I can do is interval clear. Is that the syntax, or should I be doing it this way? Clear interval and the handle. Okay, so yeah, that API is a little old school. So okay, if the ready state is complete, clear the interval and then return on page ready. And return on page ready is a promise that gives us our information. So that's probably not what we want. We're going to take this and replace this return on ready. Like that. Function, document element by ID. We're going to call this content. That. And then we're going to resolve the promise. Passing the content in. So if the ready state is this, do these things. I don't think I need this else block. I think this interval is basically just going to sit and spin until we actually get the content. Okay, so check ready state. Uh-oh. Expected a comma. So it looks like I have some bad syntax in here somewhere. Where is it? Let's see. Let's collapse that. That looks good. Let's collapse that. That looks good. This is the page evaluate call. Clear interval. That is the page evaluate call. Then we resolve the content. What is this brace for? I think that brace may be unnecessary. That. No, that definitely isn't it. So let's start from the outside and work our way down. It's broken there. Broken there. And now it thinks we're matching these two. So interval equals set interval. Let's get that out of there. Okay, we're back to a good state here. Is that right? No, we need to close this function out. Right, that is the promise. That's the internal. That's that. Why doesn't it like it? Check ready state, return new promise. All right, here, let's start completely over. I'm going to dump that bit of logic. I'm going to take this out. Try that over again. All right. New promise. It needs a resolve and a reject. All right. The very first thing we want to do is set our interval. Set interval. Hey, all right. That. And we were running that interval at 500 milliseconds, allowing our page to load. And let's see. When the interval executes, we want to check the ready state. Yep. Let's pop back in there. We're actually getting the ready state from the page there. Then we're going to check it. Let's see. I'm going to handwrite this because I think I see where the error is there. So if ready state, and it helps if I actually spell all my variables the same way. Ready state equals, what is it, complete? I want to clear the interval first. Where we don't execute again. And then I want to fetch the page content, which is this call. Like that. And then finally we want to resolve our promise with the content. Okay, so we worked out the syntax error that I flailed and added in there. Sometimes it's just easier to reconstruct your your methods and try to figure out where your brackets are off. You'll spend all day trying to do that. Cool. I have been on the Mozilla.org page for that long, the Hugo doll. Thanks for letting me know, man. I really appreciate it. Okay, so you guys have just been listening to me talk while you were looking at the MDM page. I'm really sorry about that. Let me go back through this function for you to explain how it works. We're basically checking the ready state of the page once we've gotten a success. And we've wrapped that up inside of a promise, and we're using a interval to run our test every half second. Basically checking the ready state of the document in Phantom.js for a complete message. And the Stack Overflow answer that I found basically indicated that this check should determine that the JavaScript is completely executed on the page and it's ready for me to interrogate the markup, if that makes sense. So I don't think we're using this on page ready anymore. I'm going to nuke that. So this is just check ready state. And we can actually implement that. Doing a call right here. So we're just going to say load the page and then check ready state. And the very next method is going to be parse the team members, which is this down here, which takes the rendered HTML and loads it up into Cheerio and pulls the body HTML out. Once again, I don't know if we're going to use that code or not. So let's get rid of that breakpoint. Let's throw a breakpoint in here just to make sure that it's behaving the way we want it to. Anything else in here that I want to do? Actually, I think I'm going to pass that, and if we're complete, I'm going to stop right after the clear interval. So let's save that and see what kind of behavior we get. Thanks, Hugo Doll. Yeah, I have my OBS window up to where I can see what you guys are seeing, but I had like 3 browser windows laying over it, and I wasn't checking. So thanks for reminding me to make that check. I really appreciate that. Okay, well, we're debugging, but we're not really doing anything. Why aren't you doing anything? Debug console, what are you doing? Request. Oh, we're spinning in our ready state, and we are never actually getting the complete. I bet money on that. So let's throw a breakpoint right here, and we immediately hit that breakpoint. Okay, so let's step over and see what this actually gives us. The ready state of the page is pending. Oh, I see. Oh, this is just bad syntax. I need to bring that back. Page evaluate is actually going to hand us back a promise, so I do need to kind of chain what to do in that promise off of it. So let's rewrite that a little bit. Then let's see, what are we going to get back? We're going to get back the ready state itself. State. So we'll pass a function into that, and we can basically say all of that goes inside the promise. That. So we're checking the ready state. We can get rid of this. I think this syntax would have worked if I was using async await instead of promises. But I've kind of started this promise chain style, and I don't want to mix the two. Because that can get pretty ugly pretty fast. So now let's throw a breakpoint right there. Let's get rid of all this extra white space, because I'm anally retentive like that. So we have a promise. We're setting the interval. When the interval executes, we evaluate the page, grabbing the ready state. Then we do a check on the ready state. If it's complete, we clear the interval so it doesn't fire again. We do another evaluate on the page to get the outer HTML and return it. I'm wondering if this is going to end up being a promise as well. It probably is, but let's just see if we get into our ready state check with a complete. Then we can go back and rewrite that portion as well. Okay, so far so good there. We are getting into setting the interval with the page evaluate function. So I'm gonna get rid of that breakpoint and just let it continue. We're getting down into our ready state check. We're complete. This is good. Okay, we clear the interval so it won't execute again. We step over the content, and yes, as I suspected, it is a promise as well. But we're making progress. We're making good progress. So I'm going to modify this statement to be page evaluate that. Then I should be able to just hand this directly into resolve. Like that. And if I do a catch, I should be able to return that right into reject, giving me some lightweight error handling. If that works the way I think it does, that's actually kind of nice. So let's give it a shot again. Where do I want to put my breakpoints? I'm going to put my breakpoints on... I guess there's nowhere nice and cleanly for me to put a breakpoint to check the HTML elements from there anyway on check ready state. So I will put it in parse team members, which I already have one there. So great. Let's get rid of that. And we're executing. See all of the resources being requested. And here comes the moment of truth. Did we actually get a page? We do. We do have a page. Let's check it and see if it has the values that we want in it. All right, so I know C# Fritz should be on that page. So C# Fritz, there it is. And that was the problem that we were having yesterday. My script was executing so fast that the JavaScript hadn't rendered the page before I started querying the page. So what I was getting back was the raw HTML. If we go back to the browser, we were getting the equivalent of viewing page source. So there's a little bit of HTML up here at the top, but most of it is just a bunch of JavaScript goo, single page app style goo. I needed to wait for the page to actually render. So that makes sense. I can go ahead and cancel that. Or just stop. Don't save. I don't want that page. Go. And then allow my debugger to continue. Except it's not. It's just going to hang. Well, thank you, debugger. I wonder if I can do this. Process. Exit. No debug adapter found. Yeah. Visual Studio Code was doing this to me yesterday as well. I think I need to declare extension bankruptcy and just get rid of all of these extensions and slowly reload them to the ones that I actually use. It's calling that. Okay, so we know we're getting a page. We know Cheerio can load that page and do something with it. So why don't we do that? What we were wanting to do with Cheerio is we were wanting to find a very specific class. I don't remember what it is though, so let's go dig around and find it. Okay, simple bar content. That's what we were looking for. Get the simple bar content. So if I come over here and I say div simple bar content, and I want the buttons out of that. So BTON. I think that will get me what I want. So if I do parse members, come in here, and then we should get events, and we're logging it out. So I can take a look at that. So let's go ahead and run it. All right, getting all of our big old requests. Preventing duplicate load. And I got null. So Cheerio is not finding anything. Let's just double check and make sure that we are getting what we expect. Let's take off the button. Do it one step at a time. Can we find a div called simple bar content, and did I spell it right? Because that's always a possibility that I didn't spell it right. Okay, one more time. Let's give it a shot. Okay, so I do have a simple bar content. It is not the one that we want. What do you mean, Hugo? Back on just the browser. Hey, thank you. Yeah. Back on just the browser. The Twitch page. Oh. Arrgh. I did it again. I'm sorry. I'm so into the problem that I'm trying to solve that I'm not paying attention to what you guys are viewing. I'm very sorry about that. Go ahead and pull that back over here. So here I am now. I'm getting the full HTML page. I'm loading it in Cheerio, and I just queried out the HTML of a div called simple bar content. And here's what we're getting, but it's not the one that I want, right? So what do I do about that? Simple bar content, go back and look at the browser. Simple bar content, we want one with a child class of button, but it looks like it's nested inside a div itself, which is kind of with no class. This is a no class div. Okay, so back to the editor. Let's try doing div simple bar content div and then button. And that should, if I remember my CSS selectors correctly, that should get me just the buttons inside this structure. If I'm wrong about that, someone please let me know. So let's go ahead and run it again and give it a shot. And you guys are looking at my output again, so, or my editor. All right, and we're getting null, which is basically telling me that my selector is not well formed. So let's try it in the browser. Browser. Come back over here. What I want is document.get element by selector. Is that get elements by selector? Is it? Yeah, I bet it is. By name, by tags, by class name. Query maybe? Query selector, that's what I'm looking for. Query selector. I'm going to start with the div that we know is good. Div dot bar. Not simple bar selector, simple bar content. All right. And that is only given us one thing. The search result. I'm kind of expecting multiple of these simple bar contents. I'm not sure why I'm not getting it. So let's try that. I'm still only getting one. Our content. Yeah, I thought it would be an array as well. Instead of doing this query selector, let's try, what is it? Document dot get element by class name, and see if that returns us an array. Yeah, there's 5 of those, right? When I get it that way. What? And I believe it's the second one that I want. Let's see, simple bar content. What do you have in here as children? No, it's not the second one. Probably the 4th. Inherit. Where are you, children? Yeah, there it is. It's the last one that I want, but it's not giving it to me. Why is that? So, simple bar content. Yeah, but query selector doesn't. Let's check MDN real quick. MDN. Query select all. Okay. There is a query select all. Hey. Thank you, Hugo. You get a cookie. Simple content. It is giving me 5, and then I want one that has a div inside of it, and then I want all the buttons. 67? What? Is that I need has a div, has a button. 16. That looks positive. What do we have in here? C# Fritz, inner text. So that is what we want. I think this is the query that we want right here. That's going to get me the buttons. So if I go back over to my editor, thank you for reminding me. Hugo, you did. You helped. Why weren't you online yesterday when we were rat holing on frames? Oh, man, that was embarrassing. So let's see if the selector also is going to work with Cheerio. So npm start. Bam, C# Fritz. Did I just get 1? Yeah, it just gave me 1 button, not all of the buttons. I think... Let me go back and look at my Cheerio scrape script over here. Today, children, events not. Yeah, I miss C# Fritz's last couple of streams. I had some things going on at home. He's definitely on the weekends, but we went for like 3 hours yesterday, Hugo. It was pretty fun. Let's see. So this is only giving me 1. Why is that not giving me more than that? Browser. Come back over here. You know, this seems to be working in the browser. I don't necessarily need Cheerio to be... to load this stuff. Why don't I actually just pull it out using Phantom? I'm contemplating which direction should I go? Should I reduce a dependency that I don't think I need in the long run and fight with Phantom, figuring out how to get the data I want out of it? Or do I keep going with Cheerio, something that I'm familiar with using but isn't behaving the way that I want it to? I'm not sure. Let's stick with Cheerio for just a minute. I want to get this, and I know you guys are looking at the browser again. I'm coming back. I want to play a little more here in the console. So yeah, dev button. That gives me back every one of the buttons that I want. And looking at my scrape schedule, here's where I start using Cheerio there. I basically have this in my code. Cheerio, load the raw HTML. And then I want to get that, which is should return 3 elements, and I'm running a map over that on index. I do expect to get back multiple buttons in Cheerio, but I'm not seeing it. So let's go back to editor and let's try running a map over the return. Maybe calling the HTML method only returns the HTML of the first element of an array, if you think. That's what I suspect anyway, so I'm gonna try it. Dot map, and with the map statement I get the index of each of the children, and I get a button is what it should be, like that. And then I'm gonna hand that into a callback. And let's see, let's take that button and we're going to run that through Cheerio. Button. And from there, I'm going to return $button dot what? Attribute. Now let's just get the text. Button dot text. And see what kind of information we get out of that. Let's see, we are bouncing all of these to array. So let's go ahead and do that. To array. So basically parsing the team members, we load the page HTML on Cheerio. We grab all the buttons contained inside a div contained inside a simple bar content div. We iterate over those, reading the button with Cheerio and pulling out its text and returning it, which should give us back an array. So dumping the array to the console. All right, you guys tracking with me? Okay, so let's start. There you are. Is that everybody on the page? We have C# Fritz through Potato Quality. Let's go look at the browser. Twitch. I thought there were more people than that. C# Fritz. Nope. There are a lot more people than that. A lot more people. So let's do this. We're going to return a JSON object of the index. We'll just call that ID for lack of a better phrase. Index. And then we're going to get the text. And we'll use button.text to fetch that. Like that? Yep. Let's dump that out again. See what it looks like. Yeah. We were thinking the same thing, Hugo. So let's see. We get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's iterating over. I'm not skipping anything in the map, but I'm not getting all the buttons out of and you guys are once again not looking at what I'm looking at. So here's my logic that I changed. I added the map in there. And now I'm just returning a JSON object of the index that's being passed in and the text of the button itself. So what are we getting out of this thing? I don't know. So why don't we dump all of this and let's take a look at the HTML we're actually getting from this selector and see if it lines up with what we expect it to be. So back in there, start. I'm definitely not getting all of the markup. I mean, even the markup necessary to see the elements that we did see is not contained in that, right? Like, look at it. It's just avatar image. That's the C# Fritz's avatar image. This is only the first element. Only the first button, basically. And is it the inner HTML of that button? Is that why? I wonder if I go back to the browser and in our console, what do I get back as this? Just a div. I get back 5. Okay, and it's probably the very last one that I want. And the elements were, let's see, come back. Simple bar content and a button inside. I'm thinking what I can do is if there's a div with no classes either. I was thinking if I just pull out the div contained inside a simple bar content, pull out the div that has no classes, and that should give me HTML with buttons in it, and then I can chain into that. That doesn't seem right though. We know the button is working though if I add the button into the query. That's just kind of weird. So child button dot parent. What am I going to get out of this? Constructor entries, items, keys, lengths, values. No, that's not going to do it. Is there a way to add a constraint on this selector to say only a div that contains buttons? Let's take a look at that. Google. That's not really what I was looking for. Over constrained IO. That's definitely something I need to look at. Hey, Lannon BR, welcome. Thanks for coming to hang out with us. I believe you were there yesterday, right? We definitely made progress on our little screen scraper. Now we have the markup we were looking for. And we're just trying to figure out how to use Cheerio to pull out the bits of information that we need. What am am I looking for? I'm looking for pseudo classes, right? So if I did something like MDN nth child is a type of a constraint that I want, or a type. Combinators, pseudo classes. We have active, blank, check, default, dir, disabled, empty, has. The has CSS pseudo class represents an element if any of the selectors passed as parameters match at least one element. Maybe. A has an image as a child. I think this might work for us. Let's go back and give it a shot. And you guys actually seeing my browser. Okay, there we go. Yeah, once I figure out this particular problem, LandonBR, I'll recap what it is we changed that solved it. It was a timing issue. So has button. That's not finding anything. Why doesn't it like that? Did I do it wrong? Has. It's a query selector. Is that what I'm running? Executing over here? Yeah, query selector all. Actually, I wonder if this could just be a query selector because we're being very, very specific. We don't want all of them. We just want the ones that match this statement. On document, simple bar contact has button is not a valid selector. Let's see, has button. It doesn't like that. Is it has not available? Where's it at? No, 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 no. So no, I cannot use that. I have to use something else. Anybody else have an idea of how we can grab these elements? I'll show them to you again. I have a div, class simple bar content, a div with nothing, no classes, and then a series of buttons. And what I'm trying to pull out are the buttons themselves. So come on back up here. This definitely returns a node list of what we're looking for, but we want the last one, not all of these other things. And what is this actually giving me? These are children buttons. Those are the buttons that we want. Here, let's clear all that. Content div. We want the last one. Let's see, what other pseudo classes can we apply to the div that will help? Only of type, optional, out of range. Hey, Louie. Hey, calm down. Give me just 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. It's early in the morning in my household right now. Everybody's still waking up, but my dog is going nuts. So I had to put him in a crate for a while I finish my stream. So, what are we looking for? There is a knot. Can we use the knot pseudo class? And what is that going to give me? Complex selector list. All right, can I use it anywhere? Yeah. Looks like I can use it in Chrome. Chrome has full support, but not selector list argument support. So let's see. How am I going to use not? Not empty is not going to work. So let's see. We have the div. Not what? Let's try the child button. That should get me all of the sample bar contents with a div that do not have any child buttons. No, it doesn't like that. Not button. That actually returns something. What does it return? All right, it returns everything except the one that I want, right? Let's see, children, what is this? What's your inner HTML? So we have a div. Oh, these are all divs. Oh, it is the one that I'm looking for. So that's not doing it. Because its children definitely are buttons. And there's only one? No, there's a bunch of them. There are 17, it looks like. So the not's not going to do it for me. What other options do I have? Well, let's give that a try then. I want this div right here. Copy selector. Or you're saying over here in the actual markup itself, I can come in and say, I want this div right there. Copy. Yeah, I gotcha. Copy what? Element, copy selector. What's that actually going to give me? Come back to console. All right, let's just clear all that noise. Holy crap. But does it give me what I want? Node list. It is a div. And is it the one that I want? Of course it's going to be the one that I want with that specificity. So, content div. Scrollable area. I wonder if I can take all of this, down to that one. That's still going to give me 5. So let's go back. Do we have anything? Oh, div team page. God, all of this nastiness in here. I bet I can get rid of that stuff. What does it give me? It gives me a node list of 1. Is it the appropriate one? Let's see, where's my children? Children. 18 buttons. Yeah, that's what I want there. Thank you, Carter. Sorry about that. Yeah, so back here, I'm just trying to trim this gigantic selector down to something that's actually meaningful. So let's see what we have. We have a divs, team page, body column left. I don't think I need all of that goo because there should only be one of them, right? And do I have to specify like all the children, or can I say like, okay, from the divs team page body column left, find the simple scroll bar child, and no, I'm not going to get it, so that's not going to work. It's actually drilling all the way down into it. Yeah, so what if I take that out? Is going to give me a div. If I take member list scroll bar container, you know what? I bet I can get rid of that stuff. I still get a div. Member list scrollable container. I can probably get rid of all of that. I still get a div. So I have the member list scrollable container, its scrollable area, its simple scroll bar content, div, and I get a div out. That's pretty nutty. Still length 1, which I'm getting 1 back, and the children should be my buttons, and they are. So I think I'm going to work with that. It's still kind of ugly. Maybe someone out there who's much better at CSS selectors than I am can send me a pull request on how to make that cleaner. So back over here to the editor. That, and I should be able to, if I look at my Cheerio syntax again, that's going to give me back a div. I should just be able to call children. Children. I want to limit that to just be buttons. And then I'm going to pull the HTML out of those buttons. Actually, I'm just going to make that an array. To array. Get rid of the to HTML. Let's see what that dumps to the console for us. Wow, that's taken a while. Did I bonk it somehow? Let's go ahead and return this to HTML. Let's see if we're getting at least the content that we expect. No, we're not getting anything back from this specific query. Seems like Cheerio is maybe parsing the DOM differently than Chrome is. So it's slightly different. Div. Still null. Am I going to get anything? Let's see. All right, so we are getting something back. Okay, let's see. It's about 9:30. I've been going for about 2 hours. I need to actually get some work done, so I'm just going to recap really quick for the folks that joined us a little late. Where we started at was we were writing this parser to query this team live coders page and pull out all of the members on that page. We started that yesterday, and we ran into an issue where when we got to this parse team members method, the HTML we were getting from the page didn't seem to contain any of the elements we were looking for. And we spun on that for about 2 hours, and I kind of went down this rat hole thinking that it had something to do with frames in the page. And so we did a bunch of different ways of interrogating the frames to get the content that we wanted, and we were unsuccessful. And at a certain point, I just had to step away from it and say, okay, I'm not getting this done on this stream. I'm going to stop and move on. And I did some searching overnight, and what I discovered was the code that we were writing, this open page has a callback handler that hands you the status of having loaded that page. We were interpreting that as to meaning the page was ready to be interrogated, but it wasn't. It was just simply the status of having fetched the initial URL. And what we needed to do was we needed to wait for the page to become ready before we started trying to interrogate the markup. So we introduced this check ready state function. And what the check ready state does is it sets an interval to execute a page evaluate statement every half second, checking the ready state of the document itself. And once that ready state comes out complete, we went ahead and got the outer HTML of the document itself and resolved that with the promise that we were creating. So we created a little structure basically to sit and spin, and every 500 milliseconds check to see if the ready status of the document was completed. And then we continued processing. And that seemed to do the trick to get the actual markup that we wanted to parse. And then the rest of the stream, we've been just kind of playing around with different query selectors in Cheerio to try to extract the data that we wanted. And me not being that good with jQuery selectors, we didn't quite make it in the time allotted. So that's where we're at. I'm going to go ahead and commit all of this. And if you guys are interested in playing around with it yourself, by all means, please do. So let's see, what all do I want to put in here? Yeah, I'll add the VS Code. That way you can do debugging as well. So git add, git status, what all do we have? We have the code, we have our VS Code launch JSON, and some package changes. So I'll go ahead and commit that. See if you guys want to look at this stuff, give me just a second and I will give you the GitHub URL. All right. So there you go, everyone. Yeah, I think Cheerio's doing something unexpected. I'm not sure why, but maybe I can pick this stream up either later today or in the morning tomorrow and figure out the Cheerio weirdness. Once again, I still feel kind of conflicted that I'm using Cheerio at this point. I think that maybe the next step to do is just throw Cheerio out completely and just lean on Phantom to fetch me the information that I want by doing that evaluate statement, you know, to pull out the bits of information that I need. So I think that's going to be all I'm going to do today, though. But let's see who's out there broadcasting right now that we can do a raid, since I have a few of you here with me. Let's see. Yeah, let's go there. Let's go to I'm not sure how to spell it. Akegikimo. Let's raid that person. I've been watching their stream and they're doing some interesting things. So I'm gonna refresh that page. I can put this back on camera. You guys can stare at my big ugly mug while I'm doing that. Raid. Yeah, Hugo Doll. That's we kind of covered that in yesterday. We started out just using Request in Cheerio. And then we moved on to using Phantom.js for being able to get the SPA rendered content. Yeah, we kind of worked through that yesterday. I'm kind of, like I said, kind of thinking that Cheerio might be a bad path. I'll give that some thought tomorrow. Anyway, we are about to raid a channel. Please be nice, and I will see you guys tomorrow.